Okay, ja, t'eshik arosh de ne she nanish tachi in the slind on hoskai de ne bashishin ashin hedashiche. Belagana da shanelle. Akwit ego de ne as aninishli. My name is Lila June, and I'm from the Dene Nation. Um, and I'm really happy to be with you all today. Um, we have a really beautiful agenda. The first hour of this webinar is going to be dedicated to giving you some background and some context of the situation that we're in. The second hour is going to be dedicated to actually giving you an action training of what are we actually going to do to honor and stand behind the Mashpee Wampanoag Nation today. And it's going to have a sprinkling of musical performances throughout it. This is hosted both by Mashpee Wampanoag tribal members and the Dream Warriors. If you don't know who the Dream Warriors are, we are an Indigenous musicians collective, and we've been using our platform to elevate and promote this webinar. So we're so happy you're here with us, and we're going to also have a writing exercise in the first part. So if you don't mind either getting a pen or a paper or pulling up like a notepad on your computer, that'll happen in about 40 minutes or so. But we're just so happy you're here. Thank you for taking the time to be with us. Danielle Hill, who's a major engine behind this whole webinar and one of the people who really made this happen, she's going to start us off with a prayer before we get going.
Okay, Katapatash Lila. Natasuis Danielle Ka Pamachuan Nutomas Masipiat Wampanoag. My name is Running Water, also known as Danielle Hill, and I am a Mashpee Wampanoag tribal citizen. And today I'm just going to open up with a prayer for every time. Manat Ka Nikonahuchik, Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Tiakusanish. Katapatanamu Wachi Kisak, Katapatanamu Wachi Anakusak, Katapatanamu Wachi Aki, Katapatanamu Wachi Sipuash, Katapatanamu Wachi Katahanash, Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Awaasak, Katapatanamu Wachi Wami Natonkwasak, Ananama Anian Namanat Wipi Wanikak, Anamana Anian Usinat Wipi Sompwak. So that was courtesy of the Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project. Essentially, I'm asking the Creator and our ancestors and our plant and animal beings to continue to bless us with love and protection, safety, security, and to keep us united as one, and to help us see only what is good and to help us do only what is right. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sister. I really appreciate that. But without further ado, we're going to go ahead and jump into it. We have a really wonderful sister with us. Her name is Jessa Calderon, and she is, I'll let her tell her story, but she's part of the Dream Warriors Artist Collective. She's a musician, among other things, and she's going to do a performance for you just to get this all started on a heartfelt note. So go ahead, sister.
Thank you. Before we get started, I just want to acknowledge that I am Tongva and Chumash. I stand in solidarity with the Wampanoag people in a strong way. It's very sentimental for me to hear about what's happening to them. When America first took over California, they forced us off of our territory, which is now known as Los Angeles County, and forced us far from the ocean into the middle of nowhere into another territory. And after that was done, the head of the BIA at that time decided that he wanted the land. And so that land was under his name, and he just took our signed treaty and he forced it into or he placed it into a filing cabinet and locked it. And that would be missing for 50 years. So in that time, we had nothing, and we have been on our own, just trying to survive and not die, because at that time we were still at war with the United States government. If we were off of a reservation, we were basically to be dead. So it was a very tough time for my people, and we still struggle with federal recognition. The BIA gives us the hardest time, and so my heart goes out to the Mashpee people, and I do stand with you. So now I'm gonna take it into the song. All right, so here we go. This song's called Home of the Brave. And for those of you that are not in the United States, I wrote this with the United States in mind, between the Canadian border and the Mexican border. Home of the brave, not land of the free. Crooked cops on my street steady harassing my peeps. Columbus didn't discover Isht, he was lost at sea. Therefore my folks discovered him. There were no borders when the Santa Maria came ashore. What gives immigrants the right to tell the indigenous they can't be here anymore? That's hypocrisy at its finest. I pray they'll see in America's ugliest colors. No, that doesn't define us indigenous people, because we too had a taste, had our culture stripped and traditions taken away. Some folks make religion far too tremendous, keep taking it to war. Religion will end us, that's not a promise or a threat. The way that we treat this world, that's simply something we can expect. If we keep moving this way, we're guaranteed regret. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. Said I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. Times haven't changed. Fools like Trump want to make the indigenous go away. Illegal is the term being used freely. Know the bloodline of your family, because Europe isn't close. I'll walk across that Mexican border. For your land, I'll need a plane or boat. The doctrine of discovery gives the right to steal, kill, and harm. I can't fathom rape came from the word of God. Man has an urge for profit, greed, and power. Once the land's in their hands, they begin to devour. Everything is poison, from water, food, to our minds. They manipulate, and you don't see it as a crime. Open your eyes, realize nothing they do benefits you. Illness stems from their modified foods, and we'll inhale disease with the air that we breathe. When Earth's used up, we can't just leave. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. Said I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. 2020 still breeds stupidity. As much as we've advanced, we took 1,000 steps back. And it's the future of our children hurting as these gases keep burning. So many lives die at the hands of oil companies' corruption. Oil they steal, oil they spill, then turn around like it ain't nothing. Decree said you cannot eat money. My question to you, what will you do when you destroyed the water and land so bad there's no water or food? Will you turn to your Bible and pray, or heal the destruction and hate? Our actions determine our fate. Let us love and respect this Mother Earth before it's too late. That's the least we can do. How can you kill the one who's loved you from the womb? How can you kill the one who's loved you from the womb? I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. Said I didn't cross the border crossed me. Can't call my folks illegal if yours came across the sea. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sis. That was beautiful. And it's an incredible story what can happen, like with the Tongva and the Chumash nations, mostly the Tongva in Los Angeles, how they're not just their status as a tribe, but their lands were taken away, and what are a people to do anymore if they don't have a land base. So thank you so much for sharing that. And now Danielle Hill from the Mashpee Wampanoag Nation is going to kick us off with some context and some history of the situation we're in, and kind of frame it for us, because we're definitely have a lot of interesting background from her nation. So I'll pass it to you, Danielle.
Okay, thank you, Lila. Again, I'm Danielle Hill. I am a Mashpee Wampanoag tribal citizen, and we say citizen just as you would say United States citizen, just to reiterate the fact that the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is a government, and it's not a club that we're members of. We are distinct, separate nations. So I live in Mashpee. I was raised in Mashpee. I'm raising my children in Mashpee. And I, like many others, love it here. I'm, proud of my culture and my people. And what brought me here today specifically is, of course, what we're here to teach and talk more about is the recent news about the disestablishment of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribal reservation lands. And so before I get into that, I do have to acknowledge our ancestors who were fighting the same fight that we are now and have been fighting for about 400 years now since the arrival of the pilgrims. I have to acknowledge our current leaders and our tribal council, as well as past leaders who have put their blood, sweat, and tears into this fight, into maintaining our livelihoods, into maintaining our collective interests, and to attempt to, take on this large fight against big pockets and the federal government, and even local governments, and even the state. So I just want to acknowledge all of those that have been doing the same work that I'm doing and that we're all doing. And the knowledge and the words that I say aren't necessarily just mine. We all share this story and share this struggle. So I just want to go back to on Friday, March 27th, the news sort of came to our tribal leaders about the Department of the Interior's decision. And then that trickled down to tribal members through an email that Friday night. And when I read the email, I was completely consumed by just various levels of emotion. I was mad, I was sad, I was confused. I didn't understand, why in 2020, the Department of the Interior, Bureau of Indian Affairs, whose interests are to maintain our properties and our lands, why they would do this. And I discussed it with my partner, and I was like, what do I do? What do we do? And it's easy to feel powerless as just a tribal member, as just an American citizen. It's just easy to feel like, wow, I can't do anything about this. And so we had discussed it, and my partner, who's also Native American, he suggested that I pray first. And I was like, yes, you're right. Like, let me just calm down and pray. And so we lit a fire outside, and we just asked the ancestors. I prayed. I said, Creator, ancestors, dear plants and animal allies, all those that understand Mashpee or understand this struggle, please help us, please help me understand what I should do, what I should think, because I don't want to be totally consumed by this emotion, by this anger, and I don't like to carry those types of feelings around. And the fire was a beautiful way for me to just give it away and let it go. And then I can think clearly about what to do next. And so it worked. It completely worked. And we had the fire going for 20 days, day and night. And we asked our other tribal citizens, family, friends, we said, come over, I know we're supposed to be practicing social distancing, but, if you're feeling similar to how I'm feeling, just come by and offer your prayers into the fire, offer your thoughts, ask for understanding, and ask for the right words and the right actions. And so after all of that happening and all of, the requesting from our spirit guides, I find myself here. And it worked. And you all have come and heard the call, and you've listened to whatever it was inside of you saying, be a part of this. And so I'm so grateful that, that it worked. And this moment right here with all of us is proof that the power of prayer is powerful. And this is not just a, government to government situation. This is more of it's also a spiritual war. We're fighting almost good versus evil, if you will. And so the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and other tribes are going through this same thing. It's not only fighting for our lands, but it's fighting for the right and the space to practice our culture and our traditions and our religion. And so we've been here on this land for well over 12,000 years. That has been documented through artifacts found in our territories. And there has never been a time where we can remember, or that we know of, that we have been relocated or that we have migrated. We have always been here in this territory within Massachusetts. And so currently there are about 2,800 tribal citizens, and the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is just one of 69 tribal Wampanoag groups that existed. And so we're holding on. We're holding on, and we're doing a pretty good job. And if there's any exercise or any example of resiliency, I would say, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe has displayed that over and over and over again, not having been displaced or relocated, but still surviving in this territory with the continual encroachment of outsiders, with the continual change in administrations, to the terms, to our land base, to our treaties, to our everyday life. It just seems to continuously change over and over. And we still fight, and we're still here. And it's interesting because 2020 is the 400th anniversary of the arrival of the Mayflower. And how ironic is that we're still going through disease, we're still going through, various attempts of colonization that happened 400 years ago. And we're here to ask all of our allies, we're here to ask other tribal members, we're here to ask our senators, our representatives to stop. Once and for all, just stop. And let's make some new decisions and some new choices in favor of tribal governments, in favor of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, to continue to have their land base, and we're literally fighting to maintain a mere 321 acres. I mean, if this is, talk about petty. I mean, we had so much land. We occupied, the majority of Massachusetts, Cape Cod, southeastern Massachusetts. Everyone's home at one point in time was the home of a Wampanoag nation or a native nation. And the debate is dwindled down to 321 acres and having that in trust. And later on, we will break down that whole timeline about the litigation and what does that even mean and what the tribe has been going through. But in very simplistic terms, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is federally recognized, and we had attempted to put 321 acres into trust. We own it. Putting it into trust is just like you would as a family or an individual. It's just to protect it so it doesn't get sold. If you were to pass away, you're going to keep it within your family. And that way it can just be within the family for the protection and to keep it safe. The only difference is that when tribes put land into trust, it's not taxable. And so it's really ridiculous because we are not unrecognized. So we still remain a tribe, we're still Indians. It's just whether or not the department wants to hold our land. And so it's a really confusing time because the answer naturally is, well, why wouldn't they and why not? And I don't think anybody has those answers yet, but we're still fighting to find out. And so there's a few dates that will be coming up in May, and we'll just talk more about that. But before I finish up, I just wanted to say that the community is very vibrant here. Everybody is very active. We have a fairly new community and government center with 19 departments. Unfortunately, it's closed, of course, because of the epidemic. But we have a language school. We have a police department. We are in the middle of construction of a housing development for elders and low-income families. So we have a lot at stake here, and our land is integral to us moving forward as a nation. So we really need all of us to work together and to spread the word about what's happening with our tribe, and also so we can prevent this same thing from happening to other tribes. So thank you so much. I'll just pass it along to the next person.
Thank you so much. And I'm going to put in the chat right now the document that we prepared that everyone can follow along with. Again, we apologize if you are joining us by phone. You won't be able to see the chat, but we did email it out to everyone this morning. So I'm just going to put that there if you want to follow along. Maybe focus more on the speakers than the document, and so the document isn't too distracting. But thank you so much, Danielle, for giving us that insight into your nation's reality. And we're going to go to Talia now, who's going to give us a run through of sort of the legal side of things and how we ended up here.
All right, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So, Winikisak, Natasuis Talia. Good day, everybody. My name is Talia. I am a Mashpee Wampanoag tribal citizen. I wear the hat of filmmaker and reporter, journalist, so I keep my tribe as updated as possible, as well as my Mashpee community. So within that, I had, with receiving this news, I had to deliver that news. And when you deliver the news, you have to understand it completely because people ask you questions. So that's kind of why I am here to, one, to fight for, my tribe, but two, to explain it, because knowledge is power, and it is very sticky, and disestablishments of reservations just don't happen. They shouldn't ever happen, but they don't just happen. There's a lot of, ulterior motives in the back. There's a lot of politics in it. There's a lot of emotions in it. There's a lot of racism in it. And the more and more you go deeper into this, you see that. And I'm going to try and I put together a presentation because it is very confusing, because we start to get into legal jargon and terms and definitions, and it's easier when you see it. So I'm sorry for those who are on the phone. But I'll try to keep that in mind when I'm explaining things. But it is easier to see it when I'm working through it. So I will try to shut up now and leave my opinions till the end so we could get right into it and kind of skip through the boring stuff. So I'm going to share my screen now. All right. So there is my screen. Present. So first, as Danielle was saying before me, land and trust is when the Department of Interior holds the land in trust for the benefit of the Mashpee or any Native American tribe. And in order to get land in trust, the IRA, that's where it comes from. The IRA is where it's come from, which is also called the Indian Reorganization Act. So this is where land in trust was created. And the purpose was to decrease federal control. And so Native Americans could run sovereignly and be self-sufficient. So within the IRA, there is what they consider Indian, what they defined as Indian. And they tried to separate it within 3 different categories, because obviously there was a lot done to Native Americans throughout the establishment of America. So they tried to make it so natives could prove that they are native. And within that, there's 3 different definitions. I like this graphic because it clearly shows it. So 1, obviously, is any person who was recognized under federal jurisdiction under 1934. Number 2 would be anybody or any native tribe who was residing on a Indian reservation in 1934. And then the last one would be any tribes that have members who are 1/2 or more of Indian blood. So in 2015, we, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, get our record of decision under the Obama administration. And within their record of decision, they have to tell us why they are giving us the land, like what definition that we fit under. So they decided, this is page 79 of the record of decision, they decided that we fit the definition of Indian under the 2nd definition. So the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe was living on a reservation land in 1934. Great, thank you. And so then we get our 321 acres. Like Danielle said, only 321 acres. The land in Mashpee is all tribally owned properties already. And then the land in Taunton was the Taunton that we were trying to acquire for our First Light Resort and Casino. And this is kind of where it gets sticky. So yes, we were planning to put a casino there, or are planning to. And we have to obviously say that within our application, because we need to prove that we're going to be self-sufficient. How are we going to be self-sufficient without economic development? And we have to tell them what we're going to use the land for. So obviously casinos, they bring some drama. And with us, it brought us a group of local citizens who did not want us in their backyard. They didn't say that they didn't want a casino. They said they don't want Indian casinos. So they decided to sue the Department of Interior for holding our land in trust. And this was a few months after we got the decision, which, remember, is in the fall, so September of 2015. This was a few months later in February 2016. 2016 also brought a lot of other changes in America, as we can remember. So their main argument within this case, which is, again, is against the Department of Interior, as you can see, is on the interpretation of how they read the definition. So see here, this is the definition that I showed you before of Indian in the IRA. Their whole argument, where they started, is that this right here, such members, within the 2nd definition, such members, because also means, because it says such members, it means that a tribe must also prove, and the Department of Interior must determine that they were also under federal jurisdiction under 1934. So if you read it all out, try and read it as one sentence. They're trying to make it so if your tribe is determined to have a tribal reservation, living on a tribal reservation in 1934, you also have to prove that you're under federal jurisdiction in 1934. So they combined 2 categories to make one. That was their interpretation. So, excuse me. So in our record of decision, as I showed you before, and I will bring it back up, they put us under the 2nd definition. They actually state that they didn't determine, if you look kind of at the bottom of the page, they determined that they didn't make a determination whether or not we were under federal jurisdiction or not. They didn't think they had to. They went on to explain that that wasn't their interpretation, that they were holding land in trust because the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe was living on an Indian reservation in 1934. So within that was their arguments against each other. The Department of Justice was representing the Department of Interior, saying this is why they did this. They have every right to do that. But the Littlefields were arguing, no, they don't. And then the federal judge came up with their ruling. and this was, excuse me, Federal Judge Young, and he ruled on the side of the Littlefields. So this is his actual, where is it? This is his conclusion. So he agreed with the Littlefields that the word such members does refer to members of any recognized tribes now under federal jurisdiction, which in other case laws before this, they determined now meant under in 1934. So another important word within this conclusion is ambiguous. So it ambiguously means that. So this is important because this will be important within our appeal against this decision, because as I explained, the IRA, what the IRA was trying to do was trying to make it so Indian tribes could be sovereign. And it was at a time where the termination era was happening and tribes were losing their rights, losing their land. So the IRA was developed in order to remedy that. So this is a quote from one of the co-authors of the IRA. And it's important to know this because whenever a statute is created to remedy the wrongdoings of the federal government, in any sort of case, the federal government needs to side with the party that it's supposed to be remedying. So it's supposed to be helping Native American tribes. So if there is any ambiguity within the interpretation of this definition, then it needs to side with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, because that's who we're here to defend. That's who we're here to make up for our wrongdoings. So this is our timeline a bit. We're left off at July 2016 is when we got the ruling that they couldn't hold land in trust because you need to include category 1 when we get it in category 2. But they didn't say that we were not under federal jurisdiction. So they put it back to the Department of Interior to reconsider. So at the time, Mashpee Wampanoag tribe wasn't in this case at all. So they signed up to be a co-defendant so that they can defend themselves and put in an appeal, which we did, as well as the Department of Interior. A year later, the Department of Interior actually abandons us to defend ourselves and to defend their record of decision for why they put land in trust for us to begin with. And after that, I did put that the new Assistant Secretary of Department of Interior gets sworn in, Tara Sweeney, and I find that pretty important because a few weeks later after that she was sworn in, she signed the order, the new record of decision, reversing the original record of decision in 2015. This is what it looks like. So as you can see, this was a few weeks later after of her getting sworn in. There's her signature. I'm just gonna see if I can go back. And if you look at the timeline of July 2016, this is when the federal judge said that he put it back to the Department of Interior to reconsider. That's over a year and a half of submissions of materials, documents, evidence, all that the tribe and actually the defendants submitted materials to prove that we're under federal jurisdiction. So it seems odd, a few weeks after being in office, she could go over all the materials that was submitted within a year and a half. So that's why I just found it a little bit interesting and wanted to share with everybody else. So along with that, so skip through. Oh, and a little background within the documents that they submit, because a big thing that our tribe brings up is the Carcheri versus Salazar, if anybody knows about that. It was a case back in 2009 with the Narragansett tribe. And within that case, it went to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court decided that the government can't hold land in trust for tribes under federal jurisdiction. Oops, excuse me, guys. Under federal jurisdiction in 1934. So this was like a big thing within our arguments, because they're saying, because you have to prove category 1 and category 2, you can't do that because you're not even under federal jurisdiction in 1934, and because of Cartier, Salazar, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, so that decision opens up a whole big door. But within that, it happened under Obama's administration, they released the M opinion, which gave the criteria for tribes that were federally recognized way after 1934, because there were plenty. They gave a criteria on how you can prove that you're under federal jurisdiction, because there's a difference. Federal jurisdiction is different than federally recognized. And some of the things is Can you prove that your children were in Indian boarding schools? Did the Department of Defense represent you in any land cases? Things like that. And so that is the M opinion, in 2014. So you can see that it happened in 2014. That's just really important because of what's going to happen later. Oh, also another one is the active treaty. So these are the documents that we submitted. I don't know what that is. It's a lot of information, but like I said, when you go through it, it makes you understand things so much more, and it makes you see like that there were more things going on. I'm not sure what all that green stuff is, but this is back to a timeline to further us on. So we got a reversal of our record of decision that we weren't under federal jurisdiction at the time. Oh, one thing actually I did want to mention is within that M opinion, you know, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, as Danielle was saying, we've been here for a long time. We were the first contact with the settlers. We are well documented. Settlers came over here, and we had to have treaties in order for us to stay on our land. We had to send children to boarding schools for reasons in itself. We were ruled by the King of England. we were ruled by, you know, the American federal jurisdiction, and however they put it. You know, we were here. In order for us to stay here, we had to be under federal jurisdiction. So within the briefings, as you can see in the new record of decision, if you read it thoroughly, you'll see that the new Department of Interior under the Trump administration, they did not like this M opinion. They didn't agree with it. They were coming back with saying, oh, you only had 15 kids in the Carlisle Indian boarding school. That's not enough. You had you had a couple land suit cases that Department of Justice represented you in. We don't know if we sent them or that they just volunteered. So they had an answer for everything. And the M opinion does come back up later, as I mentioned before. But so they reversed their record of decision. Right after that, we sued the Department of Interior for doing this, and for reasonings, as what I was saying, of their explanations were very, it seemed to me, what I could say is petty. Not soon after, the Department of Interior resigns. After that, we put in the HR 312, Mashpee Wampanoag Reservation Reaffirmation Act, and that basically just reestablishes and reaffirms that we have a reservation and they cannot disestablish it by any means, regardless of all this hearsay and interpretations of the IRA. So within our suit against the Department of Interior, the Littlefields filed to become an intervener so they can battle anything that we put up. I also put in our timeline the tweet that Trump did about our bill in order to try to sabotage it, just because a little bit more into the politics of it. Trump's director of communications, her name is Mercedes Schlapp, and her husband is Matt Schlapp. And Matt's company is being paid $30,000 to stop our casino. So they're basically lobbyists, and they're being paid by the Rhode Island casinos, Twin River casinos, to stop ours because they are very public and against ours because they think it'll affect theirs. So I just added that in there to show a little bit more background. But despite of what he tweeted, the House passed the HR 312, so now it's awaiting Senate. And in February 2020, now we get back to the appeal. So now we get back to the arguments of such members, not whether or not we are under federal jurisdiction or not. So we get to the point of our appeal where we're defending ourselves against the Department of Interior's interpretation without them to be there. So not even a few weeks later, we get the decision, and they decided to not overturn the federal judge Young's ruling saying that the Department of Interior lacked authority to hold land in trust because we didn't that category fell under category 1 as well. So again, it was all about interpretation and ambiguity and things of that such. And because the new record of decision was released, I wouldn't call it a new record of decision, but the reversed decision of how that they did not find us under federal jurisdiction in 1934, they also concluded that because such members meant category 2 needed category 1, and we were under federal jurisdiction that they cannot hold trust. But so that is just something that they determined within this appeal case. This is completely separate than our suit against the Department of Interior. So that's kind of where we're at now, is that what's going to be heard in May is the oral arguments of us defending our evidence and submissions of us being under federal jurisdiction as abiding by Opinion M that was established in 2009. Or 2014, excuse me. And that's a big reason why I brought that up is, as you can see on my timeline, on March 3rd, they withdrew that Opinion M. So basically, Tara Sweeney signed into order that they will no longer be using this opinion to see if tribes are under federal jurisdiction in 1934 or not. So it seems a little odd. And then not even a few weeks later, we get the announcement that they will be disestablishing our land and trust. And that is kind of where we're at. So May 7th, they will be hearing us against our suit against our federal jurisdiction. And we still have the right to appeal the other suit that was the Littlefields against the Department of Interior that went to interpret the definition, but it's very confusing. So like she said, Lila said, if you have any questions, please let me know. I'm trying, oh, let me stop the share. Here we go, can you see me? So, like I said, that was a lot of information. If you have any questions, I know it gets sticky. If you understood it all, congratulations, because that's amazing. And if you didn't, it's very understandable. I could add this presentation to our Google Doc in case you think about questions later or anything. But basically what I want to wrap up my portion with is just all of this is just when you, like I said, when you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, it's just political and something that started off as racism by a group of residents that didn't want Indians in their backyard or didn't want them owning any casino within Taunton that they can't control or have a say in, was fueled by big pockets that are interested in businesses and, you know, which then again is obviously where our politics have been running, and it's just all a big mess. And at the end of the day, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribes is the only one that is, well, not the only one, but is the one that is being affected by all this greed and racism and hate. And I say that we're not the only one, because if this happens to the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, any tribe that was recognized after 1934 is at risk of losing land or of gaining land ever in the future. And it's a scary thought. And if it happens, then we're going to be introduced to a new termination era, which we really don't want to happen. So thank you guys all for supporting us and being here with us today and taking the time to try to understand how this even happens. So thank you.
Yes, thank you so much. That was impressive. Good job. And I understand why we have to work through these court systems, because sadly it's our only recourse, but I just have to like mention how crazy it is that we're arguing with the government about whether or not we're native, whether or not this land belongs to us. And like that in and of itself is just mind-boggling. That should never be happening to begin with. And yet it's the reality we face, and we're fighting within the confines that we are allowed to fight in. So now we're actually really lucky to have Frank Waln, who is a dream warrior and also an incredible MC from the Rosebud, South Dakota reservation. He's Lakota, and he is going to go ahead and share with us some of his music to kind of help us digest all of that information. And then we're going to have a Q&A, or rather we're going to have a little writing exercise, and then the COVID-19 emergency response team is going to give their 2 cents, and then we'll try to do a Q&A if we have time, or we might take a little break and get on to the second part. So go ahead, Frank, and take it away.
All right. Hello, relatives. Hello, everyone. My Lakota name is Oyate Tchacha Obmani, which means walks with the young nation or walks with the new nation. I also go by Frank Juan, and I'm Si Changu Lakota. I'm a hip hop artist, musician, performer from the Rosewood Reservation in South Dakota, born and raised. I just want to say thank you to our sisters for sharing all that information. Thank you to Sister Jessa for starting us out. I'm going to share a song right now, actually on native flute. So this song I'm going to write is relates to what we're talking about today in a whole lot of ways. The song is called Home. And I wrote this song because, you know, I have a unique, complex definition of what home is as an Indigenous person, even on my people's homelands. You know, for me, home isn't just one place or one person. Even on my people's own homelands back on my home reservation. For me, home exists in a lot of different people in a lot of different places. And right now, we are also, you know, ironically speaking, my colonizer's language. My language was taken from me by the colonizer through this genocide that we've been talking about, and this ongoing colonization that we're addressing today is connected to us even losing our languages and our cultures being made illegal under U.S. law until 1978. You know, so we very much seen in the history where just because something is legal doesn't mean it's moral or ethical at all, especially in this country, especially in how they treat Indigenous people. And so I needed to express how home made me feel, I also don't know anyone in this world who doesn't have a complex, unique definition of home. And I think that's especially true of all displaced people all around the world affected by colonization and genocide all around the world. You know, and we're talking about a tribe today that's facing displacement under the U.S. government in 2020, you know. So we're still dealing with a lot of the same issues. And so I think it's important we keep spreading awareness and talking about these things. And so this song is my interpretation of home, but like I said, I'm speaking my colonizer's language. My great-grandmother took our language to the grave with her as far as my family goes. And so I'm in the act of relearning my language, Lakota. And so what this instrument allows me to do is get my colonizer's language out of the way, because sometimes English doesn't accurately express everything I feel or how I feel about something. And sometimes I just need to put it into music. I'm a rapper, but I'm also a music producer and a musician. I've been playing instruments since I was 7 years old. And so sometimes I just got to turn to the instruments to express how I really feel. And so this song is called Home, and this is for everyone. We're all at home right now, quarantined. You know, some of us can't be at the home we want to be at. Some of us don't have safe homes. You know, home is complex for a lot of people. So I want us to just, you know, think about our home and our definitions of home, because it will also lead into the writing exercise that we have coming up. This is my song. Thank you all very much. Thank you all for tuning in. Thank you to Sister Lila. Again, I'm Frank Juan. Thank you all for sharing and caring.
Thank you so much, brother. Really appreciate that. Beautiful, beautiful music. We are running just a little bit behind, so we're going to go ahead and jump right into our sister Tanea, the founder of the Dream Warriors. And she's actually going to lead a little writing exercise for us, which can help you later when you write your letters to your senators. If you want, you can include it in there. So go ahead, Tanea.
Yep, thank you, Lila. Thank you everyone for sharing, and Frank for that song. It's a beautiful segue. What we're gonna do right now is just take some time to just get in our bodies and reflect through words. So if you have a pen or paper, or like Lila said, if you have the notepad option open on your laptop, we're gonna do just a quick free write on what home means to you. I think in doing these kinds of appeals to people, obviously you all are here because you care and you're interested in learning, but when we're trying to help our relatives and friends and politicians understand, it's good to ground it in something personal. And as was said, you know, home means something different to all of us. Like home can be like your dog's coming to meet you at the door. Home can be the smell of coffee. Home can be like the smell of sage burning, or putting your feet on the land, or going hiking in the land that's by you and doing and saying a prayer there. Like home means so much. And for those of us who maybe, if you have a more complicated sense of home, maybe home is a person, like maybe it's that sense of feeling of belonging and love. So we're gonna do just a free write. And by free write, I mean, don't judge yourself. Like it's hard to turn off that internal editor, like saying, oh, I'm not a writer, what can I say? But just whatever is in your heart, like just let it come out onto the page. And we're just gonna take 3 minutes. Lila's gonna play some music and reflecting on what home means to you. If you want to, you can share it in the chat. Maybe we can look at those later, or compile them for the Google Doc later, but just think about what home means to you, and we'll write for just 3 minutes.
All right. Thank you, everyone. I'm going to try and figure out how to get back onto Zoom. Oh, there we go. And yes, we just really appreciate you going through that exercise with us. And like we said, maybe later on you can use that for your letters to senators. And we want to thank everyone for sticking on so long. We know this is a long webinar, but we're actually going to hand it over to Nelson Andrews, who runs the Mashpee Wampanoag emergency response team and has been fighting the COVID crisis on the ground. So the reason we wanted him to speak is just to show you what is at stake here. If this tribe loses their land, they lose a lot of their infrastructure to take care of themselves. So I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Nelson now, if you're on. I think you're on mute if you're trying to talk. All right, no worries. He might have had to go. After all, he's the emergency guy, so he might have had an emergency. Oh, there you are. Unmute. That's my bad. Okay, there you go. Go ahead.
I was trying to talk, so I appreciate it. Wanikisak, good day, everyone. And Kutapatish, thank you for all these efforts and standing in solidarity with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe during these pressing times. Nutasawis, my name is Nelson Andrews Jr., and Red Turtle is my Wampanoag name. I'm the Emergency Management Director for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. My prior career was the branch director for the Federal Emergency Management Agency for 10 years. After leaving the agency, I came back to our tribal nation to build capacity, right? Equivalent to what the state has, because we have the same rights and we can build our capacity up to be equal. So roughly 400 years ago, our tribe had suffered a severe pandemic that had devastated our tribal community following the first contact with the colonizers. Today, our tribal community is suffering through another severe pandemic, and during this new public health emergency, we're being currently assaulted with the attempt of the disestablishment of our last remaining 321 acres of land. COVID-19 has severely impacted our tribal nation, as it has throughout all of Indian country and in the entire nation and world. The major difference for tribal communities as opposed to states during a response of this type is the lack of federal support and resources. In light of the understanding of the current federal to state and state to tribe disparities, our tribe took immediate action in the readiness for this pandemic. A staggering fact, states get over $17 million in emergency preparedness funding and $4 million in Homeland Security funding daily. So if you combine all 50 states, you are looking at over $20 million that goes directly to the states. Tribes get less than half of what states get daily on an annual basis. So this is primarily based off of what is known as the Stafford Act. The Stafford Act is a state and local government centric act. In addition to the direct funding for the states, another piece of the Stafford Act that does not help tribes but helps states is what is known as the EMAC, Emergency Mutual Aid Compact Agreement. So through USET, that I sit as the co-chairman of on the Homeland Security and Emergency Services Committee, we established what is known as the Tribal Emergency Mutual Aid Compact. So we're able to assist other tribes in need. So we were able to actually assist the Aquina tribe, our sister tribe, with some resources and supplies under our own TMAC. So some proactive planning measures were initiated through collaboration efforts of the Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe's Emergency Management Department and our tribal leadership last month in March. A state of emergency was declared by our tribe and a request for federal assistance to FEMA soon followed. As a result, our tribe was the first direct recipient tribal nation under the National Emergency Declaration. This was primarily an exercise of our tribe's sovereignty, as opposed to going under the state for this emergency. A FEMA liaison was deployed to assist our tribe at our Emergency Operations Center, where I am at now. The first actions were to address the immediate life-sustaining needs of our community. Resources were requested for personal protective equipment, medical supplies, such as COVID-19 test kits. These were distributed to the Indian Health Service Clinic. And we also distributed these to our tribal members who work within the medical field through our point of distribution site at our food pantry. So our mission statement, this all lines up with for our emergency management department, is to support our tribal citizens to ensure that as a sovereign nation, we work together to make all reasonable efforts to prevent and mitigate against all hazards, prepare for and respond to emergencies, and initiate recovery activities on our own whenever possible. So this ties in with the sovereignty, right? We could have went ahead and went under the state, like some tribes I'm hearing have done, which is unfortunate, right? Because if you go as a direct recipient under the Federal Emergency Management Agency, you're able to just get that direct line for resource support, for funding, for financial assistance, and you're able to hold on to, you know, what is yours. I mean, you don't. Why would a tribe go under the state unless they don't have the resources or the setup, right? The plans aren't in place, or your emergency management department isn't established. And that's what I'm realizing, and what we've been realizing for years, that is the issue across Indian country. The federal government does not provide that assistance to the tribes to set up their emergency management programs. And I seen that while I was working for the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And that was the main reason I wanted to come and try to set this up for our tribe, to be ready for a situation of this type, or any type of disaster or emergency. Tribes don't have that that luxury that states have. It's all based off of the Stafford Act, which is primarily for states and for local governments. So that's the main issue of where the structure lies. But anyways, we were able to establish our pre-established plans. We activated our continuity of operations plan, our emergency operations plan. They went into effect, and we activated our emergency operations center. Some additional measures that we've had to implement throughout the response efforts involved the setup of a medical tent for drive-through testing. So what this means is our tribal community, all tribal members, their spouses, anyone who lives in the same household, their dependents, are now able to get COVID-19 testing. So we were able to get hundreds of test kits that IHS didn't have. So you would think the federal government would just immediately supply Indian Health Services with all of these. But I'm hearing from other tribes across the country that we're also trying to assist that that's not the case. So it's important, that we had that connection with FEMA to be able to access these test kits, and now we're able to test additional tribal members and also their family as well. To date, since we've been able to increase the testing capabilities for our Indian Health Service Clinic, we've had 51 patients tested through the Mashpee Wampanoag Indian Health Service unit. And it's sad, we've had 5 positive cases from there, but there are also additional members of our community that have also tested positive, because we live in a large state and we have a lot of counties surrounding Barnstable County, where our headquarters is. So there's other ways to get tested, but we're working with the Department of Public Health to try to track all tribal members now who have contacted the coronavirus. Another impact during this pandemic has been to our homeless population. We've had homeless members that weren't able to shelter in place. Some of the steps and measures that we put into place here were to practice social distancing, right? Stay at home. Even the state, the governor's orders are stay-at-home advisories. So in order to do those things, we go home, or I don't, because I'm normally here working, but our a lot of our staff, right, they're working from home remotely. We had to set all that up. But the homeless folks, the homeless tribal members, don't have that opportunity. So we were able to get an agreement signed with FEMA because of the declaration we have with them, and we were able to put tribal homeless members in non-congregate sheltering. And from what I'm hearing, a lot of other tribes are dealing with this issue as well. So that's a main, a major thing we've been able to do by working with our housing department in FEMA to help get the reimbursement portion of that set up. One of the other things that's crucial for tribes right now is a cost share adjustment. If you're going under FEMA to get reimbursed for this disaster, states are requesting this. Right now, you'd have to pay back 25%. So we've submitted the waiver to get 100% cost share reimbursement to the government, and we're actually working through NCAI and through USET to try to get this in place for all tribes. We've implemented contact logs for our community so that we can do contact tracing to make sure that we're all, we know who is infected, and and Indian Health Services or whatever clinic they're using can contact the potential people who have contracted the virus. But yeah, so we're just getting constant messaging out to our tribal community. Our main messaging right now is stay home, stop the spread, save lives. By doing this, we hope to ensure that our tribe's most vulnerable and our whole tribal community will remain healthy and get through this pandemic safely together. So that's it. If anybody else has any questions or wants additional information on the federal process of how to go about being a direct recipient through FEMA, feel free to share my email address, and I can work to assist them. Thank you.
All of Nelson's and everyone's contact information is on the Google Doc that we sent out and is in the chat if you ever want to get in touch with him about supporting the Mashpee Wampanoag Nation, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. So we're going to actually skip the Q&A just because we're about 25 minutes over schedule. So we're really, really sorry about that. We are going to take a 2-minute break though. So if all right. So we're going to go ahead and have another song by one of the Dream Warriors, our dear brother, Mike Jordan. Just a wonderful, wonderful human being that we get to work with. And so, yeah, go right ahead.
Hello, everyone. Bonjour, Nina Nishnikaz, Mike Jordan. Hello, my name is Mike Jordan. I'm an enrolled member of the Turtle Mountain Band of Ojibwe Tribe in Belcourt, North Dakota. As a hip-hop artist and youth mentor, I've traveled all across Indian country just performing and speaking with our Indigenous youth. So thank you so much for having me. And thank you, everyone, for being here today. Hope you're all well. Hope you're all staying safe and happy in your homes. Home, what a beautiful place, right? I want you to close your eyes for just a second and just imagine what home means to you. And just go off of the writing exercise that we did and just imagine what home means to you. This song that I'm going to perform it's a new song. It's called Home. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, home is where the heart is. Home is where you be. Yeah, home is just where it started, and home is just where you relax. Home is where you can go and find yourself. You don't need no money, you don't need no wealth, you just need your health. Yeah, and a roof on your head. I remember cold nights all alone in my bed, thinking to myself, would I be better off dead? Now I think about how did I get so blessed, I can't wait. Get home to my bed, kiss my wife and daughters cause I love them to death. Got their name on my chest to stay close to my heart, so when I'm far away we can never be apart, me and your mommy. We've been working so hard just to give you everything you want, cause growing up I had nothing at all. Then again I had it all, found love inside the four walls. That's all we need at home. Ain't no place like home. Home, ain't no place like home. Home, ain't no place like home. Said no matter where you've been, only matters where you go. This is what home means to me. Yeah, home is on the res where I'm proud to be from. That's where I was born, from the birth of my mom. She's the first one to teach me to love what you got. Cause we used to have a little, now we have a lot. Everything we ever needed came from the heart. So I learned to appreciate it, and every single part, through the good and the bad and the happy and the sad. Yeah, everything I am is cause everything I have, I wouldn't even have it if I didn't have family. When I'm with you is when I'm most happy. Home is not a place, but the people who surround me. Close to those I love, ain't no place I would rather be. Home, ain't no place like home. Yeah, home, ain't no place like home. Home, ain't no place like home. Said no matter where you've been, only matters where you go. That's just really how it goes. When you're feeling all alone, just go where you belong, to that place where you go home. That's just really how it goes. When you're feeling all alone, just go where you belong, to that place where you go home. Ain't no place like home. No matter where you've been, only matters where you go home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home. Ain't no place like home.
Dang.
Thank you guys so much.
Woo! If I unmuted everyone, there'd be a cacophony of applause. Thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate that. Really, really, really. So we're actually going to hear from Hartman now. Hartman Dietz, he's a Mashpee Wampanoag tribal member. Maybe just introduce yourself, brother. And now we're going to get into part 2, which is the action training. So please stick around for the next 30, 40 minutes at least. We just have a few action items that we really need your help with to get this whole thing rolling. So I'll pass it off to you, Hartman.
All right, kuikwa mami hauni kiwa katatas miwati mami hauni hello everybody out there. Thanks for coming today. Appreciate that you're here. My name's Hartman Dietz. I'm a Mashpee Wampanoag, tribal citizen. I gotta say, thinking about home and thinking about these things is the theme of the event. Across the street there, my brother's on a piece of it's never been owned by a white man ever, in less than 20 miles from Plymouth Rock. That's a pretty big thing to be able to say. And there's a lot of pieces of land like that here in Mashpee, and a lot of people that have been able to hold on to this actual home that is here for us. And I can walk next to the river here, and I can walk on dirt paths that are literally made by the feet of my ancestors, coming back and forth from the pond to the bay for millennia packing down that earth. I can literally put my feet into their footprints, and this is home to me in a way that nothing else is ever going to be able to be home. My ancestors are buried across the river. This is the land that actually contains the blood and bones of my people. It's made of the blood and bones of my people. And this has been a long fight. The first court cases to see this were 1651, when the Queen Weetamoo brought the land suit in him because the English tried to buy it from her husband, thinking that men had the right to land. In 1830s, my great-great-grandpa, Banjo Amos, my great-grandpa, Steve Peters, fought for the land. My grandpa, Fast Turtle, fought for the land, starting in the 70s with the land suit. So this has been an ongoing multi-generational effort. And it takes people to take up this effort. And, we need lots of people's help. It's just like a multi-generational thing where I have to take on this burden that my ancestors have taken on as well to make this happen. We also need help from other people around. These hands can't do it alone. So we're going to need your help. And we're looking to have the folks that are here on this call take on the responsibility of being community captains. And what this means as a community captain is that you're able to network with a broad number of people. I'm able to reach out to folks that I know personally, and they'll hear me because they know me. They know me on my word. And folks that know you on your word as well. And you're here because you care. So we need you to share that along with the rest of the rest of the people these actions, these steps that you can do to actually concretely help us make a difference in trying to achieve justice, which we've been trying to achieve for 400 years, and justice delayed is justice denied. So we need to see this thing brought to a conclusion, an end, where we actually are able to have home in the place that we've been planted, where we've been for 12,000 years, where our ancestors have fought. And that's going to take the help of all of you to share the news, share the word, take action, and encourage your friends and those people in your circles to take that as actions as well. And that's really important, because you can be a center point where this spreads from, and what needs to happen to get justice is for this to all spread out, and so that it comes back from around the country and around the world that this is what justice looks like, and we're dependent on you. Thanks.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. And I just put this Google Doc in the sheet, or rather in the chat again. So if you want to open that up, if you're on the phone, again, we apologize that it was in the email we sent out this morning. But this Google Doc, if you scroll down to page 4, this is the community captains area that we are going to talk about. And we're asking all of you to be, like Hartman said, representatives of this movement within your network. So I'm going to pass it to Danielle, and she's going to talk a little more about that.
Like we said, it's very important for everybody to be involved in this process. And we need to flood the inboxes and mailboxes of our senators. So I have taken the liberty of just drafting up a Senate letter. I have somebody here with me too. She's my 7-week-old. But I'm just going to briefly read the letter. And I've also included the Senate directory. So it's really easy for you to literally copy and paste the letter and just email your senator. And this will help, because this does make a difference, believe it or not. You know, they want to hear from us, and they want to know that we care, and they want to know who's informed and who's not, because this attempt to disestablish the lands during the middle of an epidemic, one could assume that maybe it was deliberate with timing, and that, you know, people wouldn't be able to gather together or rally together, or sort of show their distaste, but we're doing it anyways. And so we're letting our senators and letting the government know that this is not okay. So, and please include your statement, if you want, about what home means to you, to personalize it a little bit. But essentially it says, "Dear Senator, I am writing to express my deep disappointment with the March 27th, 2020 decision by the Bureau of Indian Affairs, Secretary of the Interior, to disestablish the reservation land of the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe. As your constituent, I am urging you to vote in favor of H.R. 312, Mashpee Wampanoag Tribe Reservation Reaffirmation Act, in the utmost timely manner." So really quickly, that act is what Talia mentioned. It was passed favorably by the House of Representatives. Right now, it's just sitting on the Senate calendar. So there needs to be some critical movement with that act, and we need our senators to have it introduced and act on it and vote in favor of it ASAP. So Lila's pulling up just an example of the Senate directory. All of the senators have their emails available, as well as their mailing addresses. And so you just click, copy and paste, and send it right along. And so, nice. So yeah, I can finish just reading the letter if you want to go back to it.
Trying, sorry.
It's okay.
Technically challenged here. 1 second. Boom. Okay. So there we go.
second paragraph, the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is located on Cape Cod, Massachusetts, and has roughly 2,800 tribal citizens, many of whom fall below the national and state low-income levels. Their reservation land is a critical component to continue to qualify for federal and state funding, to continue to build homes for their community, operate their language school, food pantry, emergency response department, and most importantly, keep the doors open to their community and government center. Up, if you want to go down. Okay, so last paragraph. This was a heartless decision made in the midst of a global epidemic without the consideration of its impact on the future of the Mashpee Wampanoag families and children. As my senator, it is your responsibility to ensure the federal government is complying with their trust responsibility to all Native American tribes and that all tribes are treated equally and fairly. Thank you. So if you guys want to do that now, would be great and very impactful if they get 305 participants that are on this call. But if they were to get 305 emails today, right now, that would be amazing. If not, please remember to do it maybe later today or tomorrow, and send this to your friends, your family. Urge everyone in your house to send a letter. We really want to overload these senators who think we're asleep and that this decision can just sort of happen while we're all, quote unquote, distracted or we're at home, but we're not. We're all here and we're listening and we're aware. And thank you for unifying together on this issue.
All right. And then Hartman, do you want to go ahead and go over the social media actions, which is the second idea we had of how you can be in solidarity with us? And I'll share my screen as well if it's helpful.
Sure, certainly. So, we have a number of actions that we're hoping to coordinate. That's why we're asking for folks to be community captains. If we can coordinate our efforts and have things come out all at once, it gives a lot more strength to our messaging. Oftentimes there are algorithms that are based on how much attention something gets, how much more it will be boosted. The signal will be boosted. So the more attention we can give things together, the greater attention we can receive from the way the internet functions. So we have a calendar of events that we want to, or dates that we want to hit for social media blasts, and that's whether you're on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, any way that you function with the digital world. Please help to share some of these things on these dates. We have the very first date on the calendar is April 22nd, Earth Day. And we're asking that folks, there's a picture, I believe, on page 5 yeah, there it is. So that's April 22nd, Earth Day. To post this picture, it's a sign that you see when you come into Mashpee. When my grandpa used to come in when I was a kid, he'd see that sign and he'd say God's country every time, and it's a sign that means home to a lot of us Mashpee folks that are around. So we're asking you to post that sign and to share some of the info about this. There's the blurb there on the screen. Join the good fight in protecting Mashpee Wampanoag lands. Tell a friend, spread the word, contact your senators today. And yeah, contact your senators today, please, everybody, as soon as you're done with this, so you don't forget, contact your senator, send a letter. Use those are also really helpful. And okay, so anyway, let's get moving through this though. Second date we have April 26th, and this is where we're asking for folks, community captains, to put a call out to people in your friend circle to prepare them for an action on May 3rd. And this is when we're asking people to post a pic of a fire or a candle, offer some prayers for justice for Mashpee people in our court hearing that we're going to have on May 7th. And folks that might wish to hold this fire 4 days, great. If not, an hour or whatever, just offer some prayers to a candle, to a flame, offer some tobacco. If you got a campfire in the back, it would greatly be appreciated. Post a picture of this fire or this candle, and with the blurb, this fire represents our collective prayer protest, and I stand in solidarity with the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe and all other tribes fighting to maintain their homelands. I oppose the Department of Interior's decision to disestablish tribal reservation lands. And this is the thing, you know, it's something that's happening to us right now, but we're one of the best documented tribes in all of the Americas. We have documentary evidence going back to 1621 agreement. If they can do this to us, they can do this to nearly anybody. And this sets a precedence, could be dangerous for other tribes across the country. So it's really important that we stop this before it starts and we don't see another new termination era. On page 6, we have the Move On petition. So please sign the petition. You know, this is a petition to ask Senate to pass HR 312. There's a donation link, I think for the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe, possibly, but I know there's one for the Mashpee Wampanoag Language Reclamation Project. This is a project that's been really, you know, central to work together on this common goal of revitalizing this language, and it's brought people a spiritual center, which has been great. But this funding depends on providing services to a reservation population. So without a reservation, quote unquote, then even though it's the same people, even though we're still Indian people, even though we're still a tribe, without being a reservation population, we are not able to access the funding for our kids to get tuition, for teacher training, for a lot of other things that school depends on. And that's something that we're asking folks to donate to. We also have Stand With Man t-shirts, and these t-shirts are being sold. The profits from that are going to the Wampanoag Legal Defense Fund to protect our land and to be able to pay for our suit against the Department of Interior for trying to disestablish our land, and these legal costs are going to add up. You know, so these are all actions that we're looking to have folks take on, and community captains encouraging their friends to take on. You know, a lot of this gets boiled down to the idea of casino, but like I say, this is something my grandpa was fighting for back in 1976, and the Indian Gaming Act wasn't even passed until 1984. And they didn't bother anybody when they put up a casino in Everett, right outside of Boston. No one was bothered by that casino, but they're bothered when Indian people have casinos. They're bothered when Indian people succeed, when we're able to have our economic rights bring us fruition. They don't want to see that because they want to keep us dependent and want to keep us under their thumb. And this is another example of that. So please help us to get our own freedom, help us to be self-sufficient, help us to have self-determination as Indian people, because we know it's best for our future. And that's something that everybody should have the right to. Thank you.
All right, and Danielle's going to move into the Sacred Fire action that we are really excited for you to participate in and give you some protocols and guidance on how to do that.
Thank you. So the Sacred Fire, we had thought about, because if you guys had heard earlier, it's because we want to promote these prayer protests, and having a fire and sending out good prayers and good medicine hopefully will influence the outcome of this decision. So on May 7th, a federal judge will hear the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe's bid to preserve our land via teleconference. So the United States District Court for the District of Columbia, they'll hold a hearing. And what we want to do is have a prayer protest on May 3rd. So we would like everybody to have a fire, light a candle, burn some sage, take a picture and upload it to Facebook or Instagram with the hashtag of Stand With Mashpee. So that will just be a few days prior to our trial on May 7th. And if you're a believer, we're thinking that the prayers will go out into the spirit world and our prayers will be answered, and that hopefully we will have a favorable outcome. So Sunday, yeah, everybody should be home, and it should be a day that is not conflicting with anything, hopefully. But we hope everybody will just upload those pictures, and we want a virtual sort of movement to happen on Facebook and on Instagram.
Hey, cool. So thank you, everyone. As you can see, we're updating the Google Doc in real time because we had a lot to prepare for this webinar. So the cool thing about this Google Doc is it's going to just continually be updated, and you'll have the same link, but it will always be the most up-to-date information. So you can use it as a reference to come back to over and over. So thank you all so much. Honestly, this second half for me personally is what I'm most excited about, because if we all work together, and there's about 300 people on this call now, props to all of you guys for sticking with us this long. That's amazing. But we also have about 900, or rather 700 more people who are going to listen to this recording when we email it out tomorrow. And so this could be a critical mass, we think. And we think that each and every one of you are a part of that. And just like you can't have a tapestry without many threads, we really need each and every one of you to join in. Do, like we said, the social media blasts on the specific days that we have outlined. And again, we'll keep populating information, photos, text, copy material that you can use to just copy, paste, post, real easy. And also the Sacred Fire action, of course, and also the letter writing. And this is just the first, perhaps, of more webinars that we can teach to stay together as a family that we've created here. And we have all your emails. We will not spam you, but we may send one every few weeks just saying, hey, this is what we're up to. Please help us out. For that matter, make sure to take our email address out of your spam folder, or look at your promotions tab. If you have Gmail, it ends up going to your promotions tab, and make sure that that is designated to go straight to your inbox, and that way you won't miss our things. So without further ado, we're going to have one more performance by the Dream Warriors. This is Tall Paul from Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I will let him introduce himself. But thank you, Paul, for sharing your art and your heart with us.
Miigwech, Buju Ginawa, Paul Indigenous, Gakabi Kong and Dunjaba, Minawa, Gazaga Squadron, May Cognum, Binda Gabi, Igaz, Awasazi, and Dudame. My name is Paul. I'm born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, enrolled in the Leech Lake Ojibwe tribe in northern Minnesota, and I'm of the Bullhead clan. I'm glad and honored to be here today. And I'm just going to share a song that I did at the University of Minnesota for my senior project some years back. It's a bilingual song with English and my Ojibwe language, and it's just it's meant as a prayer song. It's subjective to my experience. I'm kind of I'm a storytelling MC. I like to tell my story and the stories of others, and I just want to share this. But it's also just a general prayer for all people's well-being. I feel the latent effects of assimilation. Inner city native, raised by bright lights and skyscrapers, born with them prospects. Little peace in living as a child. High-headed about the fact I wasn't wild like they called my ancestors. Imagine what it'd be to live nomadic off the land and free. Instead, I was for the feet like a furnace, cause I wasn't furnished with the language and traditional ways of my peeps. Yeah, I used to feel like I wasn't truly indigenous. Now I say me rich, get you money, do for sure, but me, my true roots, definitely native. Take responsibility for being educated. My people and customs originating from early phases of history. Yes, deeper than fried bread and contest powwows. Tear shed in the sweat lodge. Prayers go out to all those I've wronged and who have wronged me. Gotta treat them like family. Get your money due, we do Kawashin, Jamashka Wiziyan, me Dutch for me, it is Yan, me just Shanam, Zagit away when the news is Shanam, Bizendow with Shanam, me Wayne Janaga Moyan, Ni mishomis we do cow with shanam jit a budget too young and nishanabe is your twawin. Me jit it came to mind K ya nishanabe be my dizzy win. Becoming aware of a heartbeat's fragility. So I pray for my creator's will and humility. It seems my prayers weak, I can't speak, not a linguist. Does he hear my English when I vent? I feel the answer to the question. This is symbolic of anguish. I feel regarding language and the obligation of revitalizing something sacred. Failure to carry through is disgracing a nation. My first tongue's in need of a facelift, but deciphering conjugations like trying to find my way through a maze in the matrix. Complex, hard to start without an end aside from being fluent. I gotta push the limit if I'm gonna keep pursuing. So I use it in a way that relates to my life and vocab. Bring some entertainment to it, spit it on a track, and I take it out the class. Can't let what I lack become a self-defeating habit that'll make me wanna quit. Get your money due, we do kawashin. Jamashka wiziyan, me Dutch but me it diziyan. Me jishanam zage away when the news jishanam bisin dad with shanam. Me Wayne janaga moyan. Ni mishomis we do kawashanam jit a budget too young and nishanabe jit twawin. Me jit bit it came to mind kaya nishanabe be my dizzy one. Me gwitch, thank you.
Beautiful. Thank you, brother. Yeah, wasn't that the first hip hop song written in Ojibwe language?
That I'm aware of, yeah.
Yeah, that's a beautiful song, and it's on YouTube too. Prayers in a Song. But all right, cool. So in fact, all of the Dreamwares are on YouTube. You could see our music videos at the end of the training document that we've sent out. So so now we are gonna go ahead and the long-awaited Q&A. We actually have some time to do this, so I really think we should roll with it. Let's at least do 7 minutes and see how far we get.
First, I just wanted to say that I'm so sorry that the Mashpee people right now have to be dealing with this land situation amid this COVID-19 crisis. It's surreal. I can't even. It's hard to believe.
Question.
And that also goes out to all the Native nations here that you've. Sorry about that so deeply, and I stand in solidarity with you.
I just want to tell people I have a Facebook chat messenger called For the Wampanoag, and I keep posting information on that so anybody can join that. I also did want to ask quickly, was that Keating's bill that got passed in the House? And is it now in the Senate? I was a little bit unclear. I've written, I've called, I've so forth, but I want to follow up.
I can answer that. Yes, that is Keating's bill. It's HR 312, the Mashpee Reservation Reaffirmation Act. So that was the bipartisan bill that was introduced last year, and it went through the House of Reps, and then now it's awaiting Senate. And that's why we're trying to push Senate to do something about it now and hear it.
And that's Markey's bill now, right, in the Senate?
What was that?
And that's Senator Markey's bill now that's in the Senate, correct?
I believe so, right, Harmon?
Okay.
Yeah, it's in the Senate now. It's passed the House, and now it's in the Senate. And what is part of the problem is Mitch McConnell doesn't want to move it to vote. So we actually have a fair amount of Republican bipartisan support, but being one of the key players, Mitch McConnell is not putting it up for a vote. So if it doesn't get put up for a vote, we can't see it passed or not. I'm also looking at some of these other questions here and looking at they're asking to say something about the land in Taunton. For Wampanoag people, there is 69 villages of Wampanoag people throughout southeastern Massachusetts when the English folks arrived here. Most of those were decimated after King Philip's War or through the process of indentured servitude and enslavement. And today there are I think 5 Wampanoag communities that are still functionally holding it together, Mashpee being one of them. Weedamoo brought this land in Taunton into court in 1651, as I said earlier. The English colonists tried to buy it from her husband, and she got the support of neighboring sachems to come into the colonial courts and testify on her behalf that her husband had no right to sell her land, that she was the only one that had title to the land. And in spite of anti-Indian bias, in spite of anti-woman bias, the colonial court still sided in her favor in 1651 that this is land that she had deed and title to. And this has been in conflict ever since that time. It was the land that was the principal source of conflict for King Philip's War in 1675 and 1676. And it's been in conflict ever since that time. And we've absorbed a lot of the refugees from some of these other communities that have been dissolved since that time have come to Mashpee as one of the strongholds of Wampanoag people that's still left out of the 69 villages, the 5 that are still left.
And so I did realize how to unmute via phone. So if you're on phone, press *6. And I'd love to actually hear next from someone who's on their phone if you have any questions, because we know this is very not made for people on the phone. So someone's on the phone, press *6, and if you have a question.
Hi, I have a question.
Yep, go ahead.
Okay, what I'm thinking is I live in Massachusetts, and I'm in touch with legislators, et cetera, and signed on to all the petitions. And my question is, what I want to do is reach out through family and friends to people in other states, so that they will be inspired and hopefully supportive to reach to their senators. So I just wondered if you had any thoughts about, I obviously can just go ahead and do that, but I wondered if you've been thinking about that as a strategy and how to encourage that to happen.
They're saying.
Danielle, Talia, or anyone?
Sure. Can you would you mind repeating that? I sort of missed it. It went in and out on my computer.
Sure. Yeah. So what I feel pretty secure here in Massachusetts about the connections that are made to various political and organizations and senators, et cetera. But what I want to do is reach out to family that I have in other states and friends, and try to think of different ways to network through throughout the country to encourage people to connect to their senators, because I feel like we've sort of got it. I think we've pretty much got our senators anyway on board here. And I just wonder if there's a way to really have some power in doing that. Obviously I can do it on a personal basis, but I just wondered if you all have thought about how to do that.
Sure. So there's a few different ways you can do that if you don't live in Massachusetts. So number one, the basics is having people send the letters to their senators. Number two, you can always mobilize virtually by doing what we're doing here right now, and we could tailor it to whatever issues that are happening in the particular state, and I would be available to do more Zoom calls and answer more questions to folks. You can always, we can't really petition or occupy physically anywhere, so everything mostly is virtual, and right now we just need to get the word out and make sure everybody has the facts, the basics of what the Mashpee Wampanoag tribe is going through, and then sending the letters to our senators.
Okay, thanks.
All right, thank you everyone. And
I have one question.
Yes, go ahead.
So Miss, what do you think is the best way to like share and talk about this to like the greatest number of people that like how can I spread the word about this most possible, and like what should I tell them to do?
Maybe Hartman, if you want to speak a little bit from your experience with activism or being involved in various issues. Impactful.
I feel like at this point, most immediate help that we can get is from the Senate. If the Senate votes and moves to establish our reservation, then that's it. Then we have been established as a reservation. Part of what the ambiguity is the idea that the Department of the Interior, they've questioned their legality in being the agency to take land in trust. But Congress ultimately has the authority, and this is one of the things that they delegated to the Department of Interior, but that's somehow caught in question. They go back to this, Indian Reorganization Act of 1934, say, oh, things weren't done right then, but they don't go back to 1870 when we were incorporated a town, and that went against the Non-Intercourse Act of 1790, which says Congress is the only power, the only institute that has power to deal with Indian tribes and Indian land. So they're the only people that are vested with that power is Congress. And if they make that decision, they are ultimately the ones who have the power as the constitutional law is set up. And I want to answer as well some of these other things I've been reading in the text feed there. Land in trust versus ownership of land. We would still own the land if the land was taken out of trust, but the jurisdiction is what's important. Our jurisdiction, our means to have our own police forces, our means to have our own environmental standards. The Akwesasne Mohawks in upstate New York managed to make huge differences in their environment by passing environmental standards for their own jurisdiction. Our Indian Child Welfare Act, these are all things that have to do with our jurisdiction over our land. So the difference is, do we come under the laws of the town of Mashpee? Do we come under the laws of the state of Massachusetts? Or do we come under the laws of the federal government? And we're supposed to be equal to a state. Massachusetts has no right to make laws over Rhode Island. Rhode Island doesn't have rights to make laws on top of Massachusetts, and the tribe is supposed to have that same standing. Without this trust, we don't have that standing. We're coming under the laws of Massachusetts and under the laws of the town of Mashpee. And what we saw when we were made a town against our will is that within 10 years, hundreds and hundreds of acres of land were taxed out from under the feet of Mashpee people who are not operating on a cash economy. And that's what we'll see again. Although we're now operating on a cash economy, the difference is we're looking at, as was said earlier, we are below the national and state average income, and yet the cost of property and the rental values here are well to 2 to 3 times what the national averages are, because this is such prime real estate, because it's a desirable place to live. So we are actually economically being forced out of our homeland like so many other people that are experiencing gentrification, and this is happening on our ancestral land where we've never been separated from this land before, and it's because of the taxes they're being able to be levied on us because we don't have that jurisdictional standing. And this is why it's so important to have this trust status, is because without this, we're soon going to be economically pushed up. And this is what protects us from that economics of pushing us out of our homeland. And so I just wanted to answer some of those things. Oh yeah, in the casino investment, Trump is invested heavily in competing casinos. That's why he doesn't want to see us have a casino. The casino funded our case. We weren't heard until we were able to grease the wheels with casino money. We languished in court for decades, not getting our day in court. Until we had casino money, we didn't get our day in court. So this is why we have that involvement.
So we have reached 2 hours on this webinar. I'm happy to keep it rolling as long as you guys want. I defer to you, Danielle. We do have Gunnar, who is going to do a closing song at the end of the 2-hour mark. But as far as I'm concerned, I don't care what you guys want to do. How would you like to proceed?
Let's proceed. Let's
right.
hear the closing. Let's hear what Gunnar has to say and what his artistic talents will provide.
Okay, so move on with closing it. And what we were thinking was, and we're sorry, we know everyone has so many questions. What we might be able to do, we are going to save the chat as a file and make sure that that is all documented. We might maybe be able to do like a FAQ, frequently asked questions, where we turn your questions into frequently asked questions and answer them and send it to everyone. That might be one way we can get to everyone. We're so sorry. We know a lot of people. I saw a lot of people with their hands up. Dave, Julia, so many people. So we're really sorry. But we're gonna go ahead and go to Gunnar, and he's gonna do our closing song, and then Dream Warriors, who did not get to perform, which is myself. Oh, sorry, I skipped a huge step. We're gonna do a crazy exercise. So I'm gonna switch it to gallery view. If you wanna go up in the upper right-hand corner, there's like a Rubik's Cube looking thing. Go ahead and click that if you're not already in it. And Tanea is gonna lead a body beatboxing thing that we are going to record now, and we're going to share online later on. So this is totally experimental. So here we go. And then Gunnar was
so if everybody could turn on your video and sound for this, hopefully you don't have a lot of background noise. I apologize if my crazy cat back there cries, but
it's 7 o'clock cloud banging.
So what we're gonna do is we're gonna now that everyone has the videos on and sound, I'm gonna lead us through like a little chant together, and then Lila can scroll through the gallery views, like, because I think there's, on mine it says there's 19 of a small screen, and we're going to try to turn this into helping with raise awareness. But it basically is, we're basically going to do a chant that says hearts beat for Mashpee. I'll type it in here. Hearts beat for Mashpee. And what you're going to do is you're going to go like this along with it. So I'm just going to show you, and hopefully people can pick it up. It's basically like We Will Rock You, but heart beat for Mashpee. Heart beat for Mashpee. So if you guys want to try it with me, then we're going to record it and see if we can actually hear like the beat from it. So I'll just go. Hopefully it's not too crazy with the delays, and you guys can join in. So heart beat for Mashpee. Heart beat for Mashpee. Heart beat for Mashpee.
And so
for Mashpee.
Yes, and so it's chest, clap, chest, chest, clap. So chest, clap, chest, clap. Okay, so we're gonna try this.
Clap.
Okay, so
everybody practice.
One. Oh, sorry.
Lila will count us off, so we can all start at the same time, hopefully.
Okay. So we're gonna start. Okay, so 1, 2, 3. Hearts beat for Mashpee. Hearts beat for Mashpee. Hearts beat for Mashpee. Hearts beat. Okay, keep it going.
For Mashpee. Heart beat for Mashpee. Heart for Mashpee. For Mashpee. Heart.
Keep it going.
Mashpee. For 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 Mashpee.
All right, let's do it 4 more times. 4 more times. Hearts beat for Mashpee. Hearts beat for Mashpee. Hearts beat for Mashpee. 1 more time. Hearts beat for Mashpee. All right. Woo!
Hi, everybody.
So, all right. So now you all, now you're all going to be part of the Dream Warriors now, because you're all body beatboxers now. So we'll see you on the next webinar doing your hip hop. I always thought it was a great idea if there's like elder women who want to become MCs. Everyone would listen to you because they'd be like, oh my gosh, that older lady is like rapping. So, you know, like give it a shot. But anyways, so Gunnar, we're going to pass it to you. And just go ahead and carry us home. And did you say you wanted me to not record this, or? Okay, we'll record it. Okay. You want me to not record it or yes, record it? All right, we can't hear you.
We can keep without the answer.
Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, we can continue recording. I think it'll be fine unless usually, I think it'll be fine.
Okay.
So Haumitakepi, Yunshkan Wachiankapi. My heart is here with everybody. Wopila for everybody joining, standing in solidarity and being a part of this. Thanks to the Dream Warrior family. I go by Gunnar Jules. I'm a part of the Dream Warrior Artist Collective. And so many good things have come about it. And I'm just grateful and appreciative to everybody and want to acknowledge everybody who didn't get a chance to speak. So I'm going to sing a Lakota prayer song. I'm Chichangu Lakota from the Rosebud Sioux tribe in South Dakota. And at this time, I'm going to share a prayer song that translates to, I want to live, Tunkashila, our creator, have pity on us and help us along our ways. So. Wani wachi elo yo, wani wachi elo yo, wani wachi elo hey, trunka shela yai, unshimana yo, wani wachi elo yo. Wani wachi elo hey oi. Wani wachi elo yo. Wani wachi elo yo. Wani wachi elo hey. Truka shela yai. Ushimana yo. Wani wachi elo yo. Wani wachi elo hey yo. Oh, mitake. Wopila, everybody.
Thank you so much for that closing prayer. I really appreciate that. And I think we all do. So we are mostly done with the webinar. However, we were thinking of doing just a few more songs to close it out. And we ask for everyone to please review the document, jump on board, keep an eye out for emails. This is our first experiment doing this, so next time will probably be even more refined. Yes, let's all continue to build this fire bigger and stronger. And thank you, Danielle, for starting that first prayer and that first fire, because it has brought us together. So I'm going to do a song real quick, and then Tanea, if you want to go after me, you're welcome to. And we're just going to do a little open mic. If you want to jump off now, that's fine, but we wanted to do a little bit of a concert, maybe just 5 or 10 minutes, and then we'll officially wrap up the recording. So thanks everyone for joining. We were all given sacred duties to this land. Take care of Mother Earth and she will help you understand that everything we need is in the palm of her hands. No need to drill, mine, conquer, or extract. With faith in the Creator, we will blaze a brand new path. When we let go of fear, the greed turns into laughter. Unity of all people, that is what we're after. Cruising down the red road with sweetgrass on my dashboard. Used to drug and drink, but now I'm sober, now I'm faster. Sharp as a tacky, told me can't hold me back now. I just want to build a new world for my children. With love, prayer, and unity, this nation is rebuilding. Up from the ash of genocide and division. Red, black, yellow, white as one, that's the vision. Every race participates in this new beginning. Sacred is the masculine and sacred is the feminine. Infinite, indigenous, continuous, deliberate. Nothing can stop the people once they got their intention set. Some people say that the land can be owned. Some people say that the land can be owned. But deep in our hearts, we know that isn't so, because we don't even own this flesh or this bone. No, we can't take it with us on the soul's journey home. No, the only thing we own is the lessons that we know. So when we wake from the slumber, to remember we are one beautiful people under one beautiful sun. We must also release all claims to the earth, because she don't belong to us. We belong to her. Mother Earth was meant to be a place where we could learn. We pray to Sapa for a blessing on the world. We practice Satyagraha because violence doesn't work. We pray for those who are injured and those who injure. Unconditional prayers for the whole wide world. We sun dance year round and we let the cedar burn, because when we pray for the people, we will start to understand what it means to be true woman, what it means to be true man. Cradled in the arms of the sky and the sand, I'm just a strand in the tapestry of the master plan, because together there is nothing that we cannot achieve. Together there is nothing that we cannot achieve. Find love, find healing, find unity. Honjon nahasli, honjon nahasli, honjon nahasli, honjon nahasli. All right, so thank you. So now we're gonna go to I don't know if there's any other dream warriors who would like to share something. Tanea, you're more than welcome to, but no pressure. So just let me know if you're not feeling it right now.
I'll just do a poem instead of songs, but I'm pretty excited. I just finished editing this one not too long ago, and it's actually going to be published in a pretty big publication later this year. So excited about that. Not shameless plug for my book if anyone wants to order it from me later. But anyway, this poem is called Becoming a Ghost. Becoming a ghost. Ask me about the time my brother ran towards the sun. His shadow chased him through alleys across town from the 7 to 11 all the way up Main Street to the church. Most nights you could find my brother from the empty bottle caps he left on corners, said it's how I find my way back home. During Mass, he offered bottles in stacks so high they say you could climb your way to heaven. Once he offered himself in pieces, vodka mixed with tears, no chaser. He never could tell the taste between angel or demon, scar and wound, or grief and pain. Ask me about the time my brother disappeared. We were 16 when he tossed his heart shoestrings over telephone wire, dangling for all the res dogs to feed on. Bit by bit, the world took chunks of my brother's flesh. I still remember our first sip of alcohol. 8 years old during communion, we ate the body of Christ on our knees, palms wide open, not expecting the priest to pour wine into our mouths. That was the first time we drowned in history, our people's bodies being violated. I never drank again, the bitter taste buried in my tongue, but my brother never quite lost his thirst for blood. Ask me why my brother says he's tired of outrunning sleep, dreams where he's chased by demons for miles on gravel roads, in between trees where we once played hide and seek. Now is about the time he vanishes, into days, sometimes weeks. My brother calls this magic, the final act for someone born already lost. Ask me if I can still hear him whispering, I am still waiting to be found, to be found. Tell me why there is nothing more holy than becoming a ghost. That's it.
Wow. Woo! Me and Sanea went to school together, so I've been honored to hear her poetry for a long time. That was beautiful, sister. Okay, and then Gunnar, I think, is going to close us out, and then we're going to end this recording. Thank all of you so much for taking the time to stand beside Mashpee Wampanoag peoples, and we look forward to working together with you again in the future.
Okay, thanks, Lila. So I'm actually gonna rehearse a verse off of a song that I've made called "Come Along." So it goes, I was always taught to give and always told to not give up. I always chose to live, but never chose to always live up to the expectations, because the expectations on the res were all distant from the separation. But we're still here, wishing for the past to repeat. Not all of it. We can cut out the past couple centuries and live in peace and harmony with the earth for eternity. But we can't, so we stay connected to her eternally. You get it? If not, just go ahead and forget it. While we go ahead and lay up in these graves they've been digging. For centuries, our people suffer, told to leave where they're living, no chance to flee. We bleed, repeating all the lockouts and sit-ins. We still are today, after being slaughtered across the plains. And our lands taken, they're claiming our waters across the plains, our sons and daughters being taken, being fostered by someone strange, not to mention our women going missing. The crooked prison systems, boarding schools to extract our spirit and forced religion. But even there says, man don't rule people. Earth and all creation, including us, we're all equal. That's my verse. I'll come along. Thanks, everybody.
That was awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. All right, so
much.
here we are.
Thank you.
Good day,
Thank you
everyone.
very much.
Honored to see you.
Go.